Hey everybody, welcome. Oh, all right, everybody, welcome to 20 Sides Every Story. We are getting started with our Spelljammer campaign, and essentially what's going to be happening today is we're going to be talking about kind of running a session 0 for the new Spelljammer campaign. I have the blur on, so I'm going to hold the book up. It won't show to anyone in any kind of coherent fashion, but I promise it's let's see if we can make it happen. Yeah. Well, whatever, you believe me. So we're going to be doing that today, is talking about the light of Xaryxis, which is the campaign that was just released on Tuesday. So this is our session 0. I'm going to be taking the players through a little outline of events and just kind of like making sure that we're all on the same page with the campaign coming up, and including things like confirming schedule and introducing the characters. We're going to talk a bit about the setting. If you are new to Spelljammer, I'm going to describe some of the kinds of things that are core to Spelljammer. Right now I'm calling them the 4 truths of Spelljammer. Essentially, what are the main things that the party's going to be operating and using as they go through. I will be open and say that I was always interested in Spelljammer, but 5th edition is my first edition, and so I've kind of played around with like converting the old 3.5 stuff, or I guess maybe even like 2nd edition maybe for Spelljammer. I've played around with that to convert it to 5th, and I've read some different things. But I've never run Spelljammer, so it's a little new to me too. So we're going to be sort of discussing some things and learning about it. And there's a good chance that I will say a lot of wrong stuff. So be prepared to grognard on me in the chat. So is that how you say that? Is it grognard?
I don't know. You better get it right, or they'll yell at you.
The grognards will be mad. It's okay. I don't know. Grognards are welcome here. Okay. So anyways, let's start talking a bit about the campaign, and seeing some Ric Flairs out there in the chat. Oh, I just realized since I'm not hosting the stream, I'm not going to hear the woos. You're going to have to tell me, Alex, when there's like a bunch of woos coming in.
Think I listened to the woos? I mute that too. Just kidding. Yeah.
Are you woo deaf?
All right. So a couple things. I guess I should say, if you're new to the channel, please jump into our Discord, come say hi, hang out with us. Everyone in here hangs out in the Discord. There's many more people there. A lot of people in the chat that are dropping Ric Flairs and everything. They hang out in the Discord. We're a very active group and a very friendly, welcoming group. And there's opportunities to join in games. I've recruited this entire campaign from people I've played with on the channel, either in one-shots that we put together, community campaigns, or even full-on campaigns. And so that's how we do things. So just, come say hi and spend some time with us. And of course, if you are new and you want to check out this campaign as we start, we're starting next Tuesday. I'm sorry, next Monday, with our next session 1. Give the channel a follow, and I think there's even like a little notification thing on Twitch. I was looking at the other day. Maybe not. Maybe thinking of YouTube. But anyways, regardless, pay attention to what's happening, because the game's gonna be coming out on Monday. And we're going to be doing session 1, jumping straight in after we get kind of some stuff settled with today's session. So, that said, players, anything else we wanted to say before we start talking about the campaign? Ooh. That's my DM fingers. Right.
It's
Okay.
snarkingly similar to jazz hands.
Yeah.
It's reverse.
Is it like
jazz
reverse
hands?
jazz hands? Surgical gloves?
Zazz.
Can I request we don't
Dig
do
in.
that anymore?
Yeah.
First house rule. No
Okay.
DM hands.
No DM hands. Okay, that's added to the player preferences. Will be under consideration.
Can the players do it though?
No.
All right, so let's talk a bit about Spelljammer. So first of all, just out of curiosity from the party, because I've talked to a few of you here and there and made some assumptions. Has anyone played in Spelljammer before? And the original. Okay. So Ryan, you played back when it was Crystal Spheres and Phlogiston and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I played it in 2 one-offs with a homie from high school that DM'd it, and then I got super obsessed with it. And we never played it again. Nobody else was into it. But I used to have graph paper, and I would draw these epic Spelljammer ships on them, levels and levels, and be like, "This is the shit. This is my shit." But we never played again. It was only two sessions from what I remember.
Cool. Yeah, if you haven't already, I know you were checking out some stuff, but they have that. It's not going to show up because of my blurring, because I'm a fool and turned it on for this. But they have little like Spelljammer plans and everything. Yeah, look, there it goes. So it's pretty cool. There's I think there's like 12 or 13 in here. So
my high school teachers were not happy with what I was doing during class. It was all that.
they shouldn't give you graph paper. That was a mistake. Cool. And the rest of you, no one else has played in Spelljammer?
Nope.
Okay. So I'll give some context. This is for everyone in the party, and even everyone out and anyone in the chat hanging out and following along. So Spelljammer is a really unusual setting. It's I don't know, there's probably a better one-liner, but I think of it as like pirates in space, magical pirates in space. And so it's a spacefaring, world-hopping setting where every environment, every universe, so to speak, within the D&D broad spectrum, like Faerun and Kryn and Eberron, technically, although there's some caveats there. All of these settings exist in little pockets called wild space, their own little like pockets, and you can travel between them using things called spelljammers. And I'll talk a bit more about these pieces. But what's interesting about it is, even though there's like the space travel kind of feeling to it, you're not shooting laser guns. I was gonna say there aren't robots, but technically there are actually robots. We'll get to that in a second. The autonomes, they're not really robots, but regardless, you're not shooting lasers. You're not, you're flying ships, but it's not Buck Rogers, right? It's the closer analogy be something like Flash Gordon, but even then there were laser guns and stuff. So it's just magical pirates in space. And because of that, the tone and vibe for these campaigns in this world setting is a little gonzo. It's not quite DCC level where people are like turning into like half cats, half staircases, but it's a sort of like pretty cool out there setting. I won't spoil a bunch, but there are pirate vampires that are openly called vampirates. They're in there. Alex knows. There are evil space clowns, apparently. I have not found them in anywhere other than the monster manual. There's lots of interesting stuff. There's also a lot of cool stuff with like sentient plants that conquer worlds, and just a lot of interesting, very big concepts. And also, what's really interesting about the Spelljammer is that because you're having planetary travel, you will find things like dead gods floating in space. The Astral Sea, technically, and you'll find civilizations that have built their kind of like headquarters out of these like petrified gods floating in space. And you have the chance to go and take a pit stop and hang out on the Sword Coast, but then fly off to what's the setting it's like where there's no metal, and it's kind of like Conan the Barbarian, not Red Dawn. It's like
Dark Sun.
Dark Sun, yeah. So like you could I don't know, I can't remember the name of their world, but like you can go there and that's it. That's right. Okay, now I'm starting to click. Okay, there we go. So regardless, though, it has that kind of that unusual experience. But at the end of the day, your characters are on things like space galleons, and they're firing mangonels and ballistae and crossbows and slinging spells and dueling and boarding other ships with like rapiers. And so it has that piratey vibe to it, which is really cool. So that's the basic thing. I wanted to hit the 4 truths, and what this is for the party. These are the things that you're going to run into that kind of ground the setting, that unify everything. And I'm going to describe it as best I can, and y'all can, of course, pipe up and ask questions. I will recommend that if you have not yet read through the Astral Adventures guide, I have not. I just read through the whole thing very briefly, or read through the whole thing over the past couple days. I don't think there's really much in here that's at all spoiler for players. The only thing that might get a little bit weird is in the back. There's a section called the Rock of Brawl. There's some stuff in there that's a little world buildy that maybe you don't want to read that section too detailed. You can read kind of the intro, but if you want, I highly recommend you read the first, I don't know, maybe we could leave the ships out of it. I don't know, whatever, the beginning part of the book. Essentially, the beginning part of this Astral Adventures guide, it's going to walk you through details around gravity, suffocation, what happens if you fall off a ship and all that kind of stuff that I'm not going to explain right this second, but will probably hopefully come up in some form or fashion during the game. So that's it, basic stuff. First one is wild space. And so I mentioned before that wild space is where all the different realms of Spelljammer live. And essentially what that looks like is for each of the realms, they are protected in this kind of like material plane pocket. And so let's take, I don't know, what's a world that y'all are like super familiar with? Greyhawk or something?
Kryn, Eberron.
Kryn. Okay. Kryn's Dragonlance, right?
Yeah.
I know nothing about Dragonlance, but I'll still say Kryn. Does Kryn have moons? They've got moons, right?
They do. They have 3 moons.
Okay. So, and the sun, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Yes, excellent. It's got all the parts. So if you take Kryn for an example, if you don't know Kryn, that's cool. They just announced that they're doing a big Dragonlance release that, has some controversy, of course, but it's coming out. And so you take Kryn. Kryn has its moons. It's got its sun. All that's in a pocket of like what we as like people who live in the real universe would understand as like a solar system. And that system is wild space. And there are some properties about wild space that are a little unique, but the important part to understand about wild space is that it operates in a lot of ways like how we understand space in the real world. Like if you're floating in space and after a period of time anyways, you run out of air, you would suffocate and die. You're not going to get irradiated like you probably would in outer space. Like you said, instantly destroyed if you flew out of a spaceship. But there are like, you're floating around, there's no gravity, all that kind of stuff. And everything in that little space is contained in your little wild space pocket. And what's interesting about the pocket is that's the material plane. And as we know, the material plane and the astral plane overlap, right? And the way it works in the setting of Spelljammers, outside that pocket of wild space, you're now dealing with what's called the Astral Sea, which is just the astral plane. And so a way to kind of conceptualize what's going on with the wild space is you're hanging out in that little pocket of material world and you're kind of doing your normal stuff. You're going to the shop and you're robbing some person and planting evidence in another house or whatever like roguey things you're doing. You get on your ship, you fly, you escape the pocket of wild space, and now you're in what's called the Astral Sea. So I mentioned a couple weird things. So a couple weird things about wild space that are going to be very important and very relevant to the campaign is I mentioned before that there is like a brief period of time you can survive in wild space. That is because objects in wild space project 2 things, gravity and air. So every object that is in wild space has like this sort of like system. So for example, a planet has gravity and it projects a bubble of air that sustains all the life on the planet. Very simple, it's an atmosphere. But if we were to take Robyn's character, I won't spoil, but just to take Robyn's character and just chucked her or him or them into space, they actually would project a little pocket of air themselves that lasts for 1 minute. But they would have that as they're floating through space, and they would have their own gravity and everything. Like it's sort of like you create little tiny planets. And this is why Spelljammer ships work, because if you are on a ship, it has its own oxygen, it has its own gravity. If you were to jump on a piece of flotsam, you would have a little extra oxygen because it's a little bigger. And the bigger the object, the more oxygen and the more gravity. So in other words, if you get flung off a ship, you're going to be in trouble. If you escape on a lifeboat, you got a little more time, etc. There are a lot of rules that go into that are really nitpicky, like how do you restore oxygen? How long does oxygen survive on a ship? I probably will play those lightly unless it becomes like critical, like you're just lost in space. But suffice to say that if you are on your ship, you can breathe, you can do normal stuff, have gravity. And if you're on a planet, you're cool. If you fall into space, you have a little bit of wiggle room. So that is wild space. Any questions about wild space? Any fears, concerns?
Well, yeah, that sounds
Lots of
really
fears.
scary to just, float and die in space. That sounds like a nightmare, but, a very realistic fear.
So I've got like a question for the party and see if you can figure out the rules and see how tightly Chris Perkins or whichever guy wrote the rules for this considered this. You have a plane of gravity on your ship, right? It extends around your ship. What happens if you fall off the ship? Like you're like man overboard.
Isn't
How
it
far
kind
do you
of
have to
like
get out of?
You'd be drawn to the ship.
You like walk along the hull, yeah?
So you would think that there'd be like gravity sort of pointing towards the center of the ship, and Robyn, I'll only come back to your point too. But actually, it's a horizontal plane. So if you fall off the side, you bob up and down next to the ship, basically like parallel with its plane of gravity.
But that's only if it's not moving, right? If it's moving, I think.
Yeah, you slowly kind of like you drift away. So if the ship is moving, you drift away. I think it's 10 feet for every minute. So you have a pretty good amount of time to like get collected. You don't automatically like pull along. Yeah, and you can't. I don't think you can. I don't think you can swim through it, but you're kicked out. And then to Robyn's point, if you get outside the bubble, now you don't have oxygen, and now you're just floating with no gravity. So you got 1 minute.
How would it work then? Like, say you fall off a ship, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you have your own gravity. It's got its own gravity, right? And you're drifting off or whatever. And like you fire an arrow or something. Is there some point where is there some point where it like it doesn't go straight anymore or something?
Damn it.
Or it like goes off. I'm just trying to break the rules. That's all.
18 minutes in, we just killed the DM, just broke him.
All my physics background in my brain's hurting right now. With
Well, no, like you fire the arrow, right? Like if you're too far, does the arrow hit you instead of the ship?
Yeah, the arrow like gets captured by your gravity. Well, the rules are the bigger object kind of commands the gravity, and it commands the air envelope. So I think if you're in space and you're not in range of the ship and you shoot your arrow, I think it would just, I don't know. I guess because force would still be applicable. I think it'd come back to you is what would happen. Like you'd fire it off and it would like come back. Yeah.
Fine, I'll
You
just
be
be a
like,
melee
I
ranger.
can't seem to shoot this.
Yeah, because you can shoot from ship to ship. Like you can shoot big old mangonels and ballista and all that kind of stuff. Like these big giant. Yeah, and so I think that's kind of like the logic. But if you're too far away, they wouldn't go, and I bet you they would like kind of like just start to drift into their gravity instead. Damn it, Chris Perkins. I'm gonna have to think some more about these gravity questions. But that's great.
I'm gonna try not to jump off a ship anytime soon. So
you may not have a choice. Depending on how this, we're gonna get to it in a second, but there's a lot of opportunities for failure in this campaign.
yes.
I love failure.
Failure is the best part of D&D.
just like real life.
That's right. Just like real life, when your ship gets destroyed in outer space and you have to shoot an arrow.
Outer space, it's even easier to fail up.
But nobody can hear you fail.
That's right.
Yeah, there you go.
Except yourself.
So, and that actually came up as a question in our group, is like, how does sound work? And the way I had trouble figuring that out, but I'm going to rule it for now that if you're in the same air pocket as something, we can hear you. As soon as you're out of the pocket, you can't hear like traditional sound. I know the Thrycreen, is that right? Is that how it's saying?
So.
I'm gonna
that's
go
how. Yeah, you have to in fact use your psychic powers. So, but you'll be able to if you get thrown off out of the ship. So I mentioned outside the wild space is the Astral Sea. So the Astral Sea is, I don't know. It's like, I'm trying to think of, to me, it's almost like hyperspace. It's not quite like that. Like you're exiting like a solar system and now it's time to like really travel about. What's interesting with the Astral Sea, because you're leaving the material plane, you no longer age. So if you're in the Astral Sea, you don't age at all. You don't have to drink. You don't have to breathe. You don't have to eat. You're basically not immortal because you can be killed, but you don't have to nothing survival really relates to you anymore. So in theory, you could just live in the astral plane, hanging out on a rock for like eternity until some god comes and eats you or something. So that's kind of the concept. Now, the astral plane is home to a lot of really dangerous, bizarre, interesting creatures and factions. There are gods that actually have domains inside the Astral Sea. So I mentioned before, you could find dead gods floating about. But what's interesting with the Astral Sea is that because wild space systems sort of operate, they kind of move around in the Astral Sea, it's hard to force a chart a course. But the Astral Sea has a tendency to just let you just automatically go to the right place. So you don't have to navigate it traditionally. if you essentially get in the ship, get in your Spelljammer, and say, "Hey, I want to go to Kryn." As long as you're the Spelljammer, which I'll get to in a second, the ship will kind of navigate that way. So, Astral Sea, that's your second resource. Questions from the party about that? Is that clicking kind of the distinction?
Yeah, I think so.
Yep.
Cool. Now the fun part, Spelljammers. Who wants to tell me what a Spelljammer is? Does anyone know?
It's
I didn't study.
It's the navigation, essentially, of the ship.
The
So-
navigator, correct?
Close, both wrong, but in the right territory. I think. Maybe I'm wrong now. I'm like, dang. The Spelljammer is the ship, right? And the Spelljamming helm is the controller device, isn't it? Oh shit! No, I got it
I
wrong.
think what
That's
I
what I
read,
thought.
it used to be. I thought what I read
I think you're right.
yesterday was they're calling them Spelljammer ships, and there's the Spelljammer helm, which controls the Spelljammer ship.
Spelljammer's
The
the person.
Spelljammer sits in the Spelljammer helm that controls the Spelljammer ship.
Yeah, that's
a lot
right.
of spells and jams.
There's a lot of.
Sweet.
This is why we're doing this collaboratively. Thank you, David. You're correct, and totally. In my world, that's not how we're going to call it. Though. I'm the DM. Just whatever comes out of my mouth is right. no, that's perfect. Yes. So you're right. I'm wrong. We said navigator. I was thinking you meant the helm, not the person. So you're right. Is the navigator. So the ship is the Spelljammer ship. Spelljammer helms are used to navigate or control the ship. And essentially, a Spelljammer helm is like a magical chair that you attune to as a spellcaster, and you can command the ship from that chair. They are quite expensive to create. I think there's something in I think as a spell caster, you can learn the spell to make one. It's like 5,000 gold pieces for the component. I think it's a component that persists, but regardless, it's expensive. And so hiring someone to make one is quite challenging. So generally speaking, you don't want them to get blown up. And unless you're a very wealthy party, you're going to want to hold on to your Spelljammer helm. A couple things about Spelljammers that are interesting, or Spelljammer ships and spell jamming. Can I just say that? Spell jamming is a concept. Is that the way that that's right? The way that these things operate, the way the ships operate, is that they basically like fly extremely fast through space. I think it's like the number made my mind melt. It was like 100 million miles per day. It was really a lot. Let's just say it's something like 100 million miles per day.
Like a billion.
I think it was
bajillion.
10 million miles an hour, was it? Or maybe it's per day. I think it was
Yeah.
roughly like the distance between the Earth and the Sun, and yeah, something like that.
I mean, does that? Why are some of these rules, guys? Like, really, does it? Because are they giving you like a distance between Faerun and Corinne where that's gonna matter, or like?
Well, and they're all moving all the time, so
Or is
it's gonna vary.
But we're in combat, so if this
Yeah.
thing's moving 1,000,000 miles an hour, it's this many per round.
We're really just gonna spend entire sessions with star charts and plotting, and it's
Yeah,
gonna
it's
be
like
so
X-Ball.
interesting. It's gonna be just riveting.
The number count on the spell jamming hex crawl gets a little out of control.
Triple gazillion A to 1,009. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Which
Foundry may not
exponent
support
Are we
that.
on again?
That's right. So, but the important piece is that they go real fast. We don't need to worry with the numbers, but it's some big number that sounds scary until you get into the vicinity of an object. And so, in other words, like you can't fly into a planet, you can't fly into an asteroid. What actually will happen is you'll fly and then automatically slow down if there's an asteroid in front of you, or a planet, or another ship. And so, as you can imagine, you can set ambushes, you can set traps for Spelljammer ships, and I'm just gonna say ships. And you can do all these kind of like interesting things, but also you might come upon some wreckage while you're flying around. But anyways, regardless, it has like this sort of stopping mechanism, and that's going to be important because, as you imagine, you will be flying around. Hopefully, I mean, unless immediately we get killed. There's like I mean, that's like the core cool part of the campaign is having the ship. So hopefully you'll get on a ship, probably every session. So a couple things about Spelljammer ships. There are all kinds of different types. I think the Astral Adventure Guide outlines like 12, 13, 14 or so. But that's just sort of like your standard make and model. I think there might be a couple unique ones in the campaign. And to Ryan's sort of like explorations as a child, you can make one and build one. Like there's all kinds of opportunities for that. Generally speaking, they have a Spelljammer who is a spellcaster who is basically the ship pilot. They usually have a captain, and then they usually have a couple people who operate the weaponry. And just kind of peeking through the ships, it looks like most of them it's going to be Ballistae and Mangonels. Seeing that right? That doesn't sound right. Mangonel, whatever. I just know it from like the Witcher card game. It's like one of the cards. But regardless, I think they shoot they're like catapult type things. And so not every ship has the same level of weaponry. Some have unique weapons. You get the idea. You would know that there are things like Mind Flayers that have their own Spelljammer ships. There are Beholders that have their own Spelljammer ships. Astral Elves, just all kinds of groups that are out there flying around in space doing scary things. And they have their own systems. And so some of them are really common. Probably not going to see a Mind Flayer ship docked. Hopefully you don't see a Mind Flayer ship docked in the port, but you're probably going to see a variety at any particular dock that you're at. So I feel like I really messed up the description. Just be like, you're a pirate in space. Boom, done. Got it.
Yar.
When in doubt, see the first sentence of this whole thing.
That's right.
Pirate in space.
Everything goes back. Cool. So then the last thing I just wanted to like touch base is like the fourth truth is that what's great about the setting is there's some new races that get introduced, and we're gonna see a couple in the party. And I won't spoil it because I do want you all to get a chance to reveal your characters. But we have, as I mentioned, Astral Elves. I won't say much about them. They're space elves. They're cool. That's it. The end. We have some others. I mean, they're neat. I like the Astral Elves. They actually have some cool mechanics. There's Auto Gnomes, which I don't really know much about them. I know they're like mechanical gnomes. I think they're
Weren't
like...
they created by the gnomes on Corinne somehow? Or something like that?
I feel like that is one possible origin that they suggested, at least in some of the beta stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll say this. They are robot gnomes, and they have steam coming out of their ears if I go off the picture.
They're like steampunk Terminators.
Steampunk Terminators. Yeah, they're pretty cool. I wish I could... Let's see if I can get this to not blur. You can see like one of them, kind of. Look at that one. That one's like not the most exciting looking one, but anyways, there's some little gnome guys. There are a group of creatures. We actually have seen this before in D&D. If you've just looked at, I can't remember, they're like Xanathars or something, or maybe Tasha's, but it's the GIF. So party preference, first question: GIF or GIF? I call them GIFs.
I like GIF, but
I like GIF as well.
Okay. We won't do too silly of stuff with that, but I was actually genuinely curious. So
If
GIF
one
are
gets
like,
really-
I mean, maybe
Come on.
maybe someone
just-
in the universe pronounced it GIF.
I mean, can I just throw, if we meet a really boisterous one, it'll be an animated GIF. Can I just get that out of the way?
And he will be very angry if you say GIF. I'll just say that. That's their touch point. They don't care what
Wars
their
have been
creator
started.
said.
Yeah.
Maybe that's some sort of slur.
Yeah.
Or what if there's a GIF civil war where they're like fighting over the true name of their people?
Yeah, the Holy War. Because you have the one sect that's like their creators said GIF, but modern society has evolved beyond their creators' intent. So anyways, they're hippos. They're hippo. I don't know. Honestly, like I was trying to describe what they were to my wife, and I was like, I kind of feel like I need to look at their lore, but I always like feel like they're like British colonizer safari hippo guys, and I don't know if that's at all
they
accurate.
Talk like Babar.
Yeah, it's like
in my
Babar.
mind, do they talk like Babar?
Yeah, they seem chiefly militaristic, so I think that probably is as good a metaphor as any. Any group that's going out and conquering and colonizing, that's the gift.
Oh, cheerio, good sir.
Yeah.
We're going to go conquer that next bit of wild space over there and have me a spot of tea.
You can
Well, that
voice
really
all the
jams
NPCs.
my blunderbuss.
gonna make them Russian just to counteract the stereotype. So then there are the Hadozi, which are, I guess, like flying monkeys. Like that's kind of not quite right. They're like monkey gliders or sugar gliders.
Sugar gliding monkeys.
Oh, those are cute.
Yeah,
Are they
they're very cute.
No. Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, they look scary, but they're cool. And then we get to two races that'll be very important to this party, which is the Plasmoids, which are sentient oozes, and then the Three Kreen, which are they're like bug people. They have 4 arms, 2 legs, and they are big old bugs. That's what they are. They're bugs. Probably also makes them mad to call them that. And so the Plasmoids are oozes. Very interesting. We're going to learn a bit more about them, and so we learn with the Three Kreen and their whole process and everything about them. So that's actually how we're going to go with that. So those are our 4 truths. I know that was kind of a exhaustive explanation, but I just wanted y'all to get a chance to kind of like wrap your mind around what Spelljammer's flavor is all about, what we're going to be doing, and some of the things that are going to become relevant to you. And I think for the sake of getting into the fun of things, I'm going to skip the major faction section. I think I'll just kind of send y'all some stuff in Discord, but basically the main factions, the Rocket Brawl, this kind of like sort of like New York City in space kind of setup. So, but other than that, we're cool. I think we can move on. So, any questions about the setting itself?
Nope.
I'm feeling pretty good, I think.
Cool.
So no Phlogiston, no crystal spheres. Totally different than when I was a kid. Yeah, we're good.
Everything you've brought in is a hindrance.
So I need to read the book. Just came out. I'll do that.
Yeah.
I'm on it.
It's I mean, I'll tell you this. It's pretty tight. Like it's not an intense read. So I think you could probably churn through the basics. I do recommend.
Super psyched for it. I've got a couple hours set aside this weekend for it. So.
Yeah, and and one of the things that's really nice about the setting is because, and actually I was a little disappointed trying to go through and like find like meaty like faction type stuff. But what's nice about it is there's not a lot in there, but you kind of have baked in any setting you can think of is accessible in Spelljammer, except I think Eberron technically, I think the official word from Keith Baker is that there's like a block that protects it. I think it's something to do with the Sybaris dragon, but I don't know, whatever. We can go there if we want. Okay, cool. So let's talk about the main threat. So I bring this up because the party has actually already walked through and done some character generation. And I want to kind of like make sure that when y'all sort of settle on your characters, describe them a bit more later in the session, that we are tying that into the main threat. I want to make that to be the driver. So we can be creative with this, but this is the premise of the campaign. You are all a party of adventurers that work together for whatever purpose. I can't wait to hear. Could be nefarious, could be altruistic, could be pragmatic, could be happenstance, your choice. But you are a party that works together, already knows each other, and you are in on a world that is in some way meaningful to you. And again, the definition of that meaning can be it's your home planet where you all were raised as oozes and Three Kreen. It could be a port of operation that you've kind of really gotten attached to. It could be something people have paid you to protect, whatever you want to say. But it's a world that you care about, and that world is under a essentially cosmic world-ending threat. And we are going to start session 1 basically diving right into that threat. The other sort of context of that is you are, when you kind of deal with the initial threat, when it rears its head, you're in a port city on that world. And that's important because you could put 2 and 2 together. There's going to be Spelljammer ships. Like, come on, guys. So you're going to have to jump on a Spelljammer ship, but that's the context. And so whatever world we pick is actually open to us. The adventure recommends you start with the Sword Coast, which we can do that if you'd like to start with the Sword Coast, or we can do something weird, or we can make something up, whatever you want to do. But the basic idea is like you want to protect this place because something bad's going to happen. And the entire adventure, your party is going to be tasked to essentially figure out what is the threat, uncover its origins, find the source, and solve the problem. And that's the structure of this campaign. And I bring it up because there are many points in time when your character could just be like, I'm out of here, screw this, like I'm gonna port a new city, I'm just gonna just peace out. And I really want to make sure that you all have like some like glue that prevents that from being an occurrence, unless we just want to get freaky with it and like screw the campaign and like fly off into space and explore stuff. But we'll talk about that. So any questions about the general threat? We'll do the world building stuff later, but like broadly, does that make sense to y'all? There's like a world that you got to protect and everything.
Yep.
Okay. So let's talk about campaign structure. So this is for really just the players, but really anyone paying attention. If you're curious about how this campaign operates, I'm getting a little bit of peek behind the curtain. So the way this campaign is structured, it's built to have a very intense kind of cliffhanger beat structure, so that every single session is so hopefully going to end in like a big cliffhanging moment where you're just like, gosh, what's going to happen next time? And it's going to bounce from session to session, sort of following that structure. There's a chapter structure, which I won't spoil too much. I don't want to say how many sessions there are to the party because I want you all to kind of have some surprise. But there's a chapter structure that basically lends itself to being roughly 12 sessions of the game. And so in terms of structure, in order to hit those beats, the first thing that I want to talk about with the party is session length. So what they say in the book, 2 to 3 hours per session. My experience when I run games as a DM, that it's like times 10 of what I think it's going to be. That's not exactly accurate, but like I think it's probably going to go closer to 3 to 3.5. And I wanted to feel 2 vibes out from the party. Is one, how first of all, would you all be comfortable ending early sometimes or staying late sometimes within a band?
Yeah, that works
Yep.
for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll try to be very like cognizant. I'm not going to end after like an hour if you're just like, we solved the puzzle, and like I'll have like an explosion happen or something. There'll be something to do. But I think that in general, probably going to be closer to like 3 hours anyways. And I just getting kind of like a cap limit, 10:30 Central, and we call it. Is that
Yeah,
okay?
that sounds good.
A little late. It's Monday. I want to make sure everyone's not getting... Okay, cool. All right, so that's that. Leveling is going to be by milestone. So basically, when you complete a major chunk of the story, you're going to go up a level. So you're all going to start at level 5. You'll go up to level 6, then level 7, then level 8. And then at the end of the campaign, you're going to graduate... Well, hopefully, you'll graduate with a 9th level character that has hopefully survived the campaign. And it can continue off in the Spelljammer world doing things. So that is that. And yeah, just any questions about the structure? Are we cool? Oh my god, I'm doing the hands, aren't I? I'm like stuck.
I think I did it.
Stop it!
It's just gonna happen. What if I do like this? Like John Cena?
That I can do.
That's the John Cena thing, right? You can't see me? Is that the thing? Yeah. Okay. Okay, I never actually watched that era of wrestling, but my son had a John Cena toy that said, you can't see me every time you touched it or like looked at it, or like electricity went off near it.
And it
Like
was
someone turned on a
destroyed
light
and buried
switch.
in the cemetery.
Right.
Someone turns a light switch, you can't see me. You can't see me. Anyways, so speaking of tone and vibes for the campaign. So I mentioned before that one of the major inspirations that's called out is Flash Gordon. If you've never seen Flash Gordon or know anything about it, and I mean the movie, just to be clear, so like the movie with Brian Blessed and everything. I mean, it's a silly kind of schlocky movie. Feel free to watch it and enjoy it or not enjoy it. But that's sort of an inspiration point. I would argue that I agree with their sort of take on that, but I'm not feeling it totally just yet. It's not as gonzo as I thought it was going to be based off that statement. But the basic idea is that what they mean by that is they want this to feel bigger than life, kind of, you know, like you're adventurers. I'm not going to have NPCs solve problems. I would hopefully never do that anyways. Y'all, well, I've done that a few times, but y'all are going to be the heroes. You're going to be the people who get deferred to. You're going to be sort of, to some degree, strangers in a weird, unusual place for the most part, especially the latter half of what from what I can tell from the preview. So, but it's going to be a bit silly. And so I wanted to address that because I like making jokes. I love it when the party makes jokes, especially when I can like sit back and let y'all do your thing. But what I wanted to propose to y'all as a tone is we have fun, we goof around, we we have characters inspired by a lot of things that are silly, like GIFs and GIFs, but we try to stay in character, reasonably when we're talking. And so what that means is, like, if you call a GIF, if you call a GIF a GIF, there's an inside joke happening. We'll have fun with it, but it's going to be in world. It'll be real. There really will be like an insult or like a holy war that's happening, and we'll play into it and be a little silly. But otherwise, like, try to keep the tone of the game in the game, just to help with like the I want to say believability. That's not even remotely useful for this setting.
The immersiveness.
The immersiveness.
Yeah. Are we playing it like a Christopher Nolan a superhero movie where it's absolutely ridiculous, but we're pretending it's dead serious?
So definitely not that. I don't want it to be dead serious. I want y'all to have fun and like screw around and like do silly stuff. It's really more just like, and also, like, we're humans. We're gonna make jokes about real world things all the time, but like more just like making jokes about the shit happening in the game as a character, less like stuff that's going on like outside. I don't really know how to articulate exactly. I think we all kind of get it. So
be meta. Don't be third person or something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Laugh
Absolutely.
with the game. Don't laugh at the game.
Yeah, you can laugh at me if you want. That's cool. But I'm not part of the game. I'm just facilitating. Okay, cool. Makes sense. And we can also play around with that. This is all like subject to like discussion. Like, it's not like fucking Curse of Strahd or something. Like, we're not gonna, we're not gonna be dealing with, scenery chewing and all that kind of stuff. But let's, keep our characters going.
Can we take a Spelljammer to Ravenloft?
Yeah, I think you can, right?
Ooh, I don't know, man.
Why would you want to?
I guess you'd have to like deal with like
to rescue someone who's been trapped there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, maybe if somebody's been picked up by the mist and you're going, you're trying to, Jesus. Oh my God, that's.
Y'all would have such a bad time in Ravenloft, like 2 oozes and 2 sentient bugs that like wandering around.
I actually would argue that we would just fit in with all the other scary horror tropes that are going on there. It's just,
Everyone would be like, "What did you guys do?"
Yeah, the abbot definitely got a hold of a couple of you.
Yeah.
So speaking of, my take on this is, we could dig into this further if we want, but my take on like violence and that kind of thing is like PG-13, but 1990s, 1980s PG-13. So, like we're going to have a little bit, there's definitely going to be violence and stuff that you probably wouldn't want your 13-year-old nowadays to watch, but we watched when we were 13. So, I'm not going to touch on very like, I'm going to avoid any sort of trauma triggering topics that I immediately know. I think we all know, like, don't touch on the certain topics, obviously. But I would tell the party is, if there's anything that's a hot button issue for you, direct message me is probably the best way. If you feel comfortable sharing with the group, so someone doesn't like engender that scenario, you can do that too. But I feel like we're all adults. We've all played with each other. Just communicate to me about it initially, and I will make sure to like curtail those things, and we can always debrief post. So I know there's like not a lot of structure to that, but I think that's where I'm comfortable, and let's leave it at that. So yeah, I'm trying to think of a good like example PG. Like, I would say RoboCop. Was that PG-13? Probably not.
It probably was.
I think that. Is it? It's
if
Verhoeven, for Christ's sake.
If it was made before R existed, like, or actually, no, I take it back. There was PG and then there was R, and there was a long time in the 80s where PG, there wasn't a PG-13, so something seems PG, and then it's like, this is actually a little bit closer to R, but we don't have that distinction quite yet.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm now very curious about RoboCop.
Are you looking it up? You're looking it up.
I'm trying.
RoboCop is not only a little bit gory, but it's also a little bit like schlocky, sleazy, and if I remember correctly, there's boobs everywhere. So
I remember there being drugs being a big theme, and maybe in the sequel, like Nuke or something. I don't know.
Yeah, this won't have the RoboCop tone.
We're not going that far, guys.
Yeah, not going that far. But I was
going RoboCop the cartoon.
There you go. The action figure for the kids and all that.
I
Yeah,
hereby
cartoon.
request, Winston, that you introduce an NPC that's a cop autognome.
Yeah.
It's a gift that gets turned into an audio. Shut up. Okay. I mean, maybe we have to do that now, but we'll see.
Just make sure you name him Murphy.
Murphy.
Murphy, yep.
Anyways, so that said, speaking of death and losing, so I mentioned this before a couple times before. This campaign is really neat in the sense that it sets up a lot of challenges that are pretty challenging, and it accepts that you may lose, and it provides a lot of guidance around it. So, you know, we joke about like fail forward, or in this case, fail up, or whatever. It's just sort of the idea that like it's gonna be okay if you lose. If you TPK, I'm probably not gonna kill you. It'll probably be like you get captured and now you're in the brig of a spaceship and you have to find a way out. So we'll have little diversions when failures occur. I just wanted to put it out there that I'm going to be a little bit aggressive because I think it could be fun if you fail sometimes, and I think it makes it a little bit more thrilling if y'all really know that I'm out for blood. And I think in this particular campaign, it's going to fit, and there's a bit of structure around it. So I just want to put it out there. Tied to that too, this is maybe a little bit more controversial, but I'm also planning to, when it's appropriate, try to kill the players. And so I'm going to be mindful of this.
What?
I'm not the players. Like
Suddenly
Alex
my
opens the
door
door.
behind me opens. Winston's there. Ha
It's a hitman.
That's where the space clown was.
I'm just sitting there nodding, like, yeah, that makes sense to me. Go ahead.
Listen, I'm going for drama. But I will try to kill the characters. The players hopefully will be safe. But the basic idea would just be, you know, like the typical thing, and a lot of times in D&D, someone gets knocked unconscious. Nice DMs don't then hit the person until they die. I'm not going to do that if just for cruelty, but if it makes sense, like a wild animal has you, or there's something going on, like you keep doing things, like you keep getting healing word and you pop up and do stuff, eventually they're gonna learn and be like, I need to just kill that guy. So just kind of be aware. I'm hoping y'all can trust me on it. This campaign is boxed in the sense that it has a clear-cut ending. It's a little shorter than maybe like a full-on giant campaign. So if a character dies, we'll bring in another character, and I'm hoping that it won't be like a major issue. But again, I won't be cruel about it, and if it feels like it's cruel, y'all call me out. That's not the intention. So just wanted to put that out.
So don't get mad at you if you try to kill us just a tiny bit harder than most DMs.
Yeah, and like I'll tell you this, not Alex. Like Alex would absolutely just kill you, or kill your character.
Or both.
Or both. But I mean, like, come on, think about all those times when Alex, you're playing the community campaign and he hits your character when they're unconscious and you're like, no. It's like high drama, you know? It's so much fun.
Yeah.
Really had Cinnamon survive when your character died, because I don't know, maybe he took pity on me, but got captured.
He knew
starting
I
to
would be
see
happy
what's
dying.
happening. Secrets revealed.
So,
It's okay. He got me back.
That's right. That's right. I did kill you in the only game I think I've DM'd. No, that's not true. You played in Ebron. That's right. So the first game you ever played.
First session?
It was a one shot, but yeah, he got he was a level 1 character and he ran out, and there were some scarab beetles, and they just like, I think they crit and they did like 20 damage to him, and he was just like devoured instantly.
It was pretty perfect.
He wasn't mad at you, Winston. He was just mad at the dice.
That's right. Just one crit's all it took. That's a goblin. So anyways, so let's that's that. I mean, you know, feel free, everyone, you know, I don't want to belabor too much, but hit me up if you're like, dude, please don't kill my plasmoid. He's so cute, you know, and I will probably still do it. So table style. So speaking of, so I wanted to hit a couple things. This is I don't know really like the nature of this conversation. I wanted y'all to give a chance to sound off on sort of like the style of game. I think we all kind of get it, but I also think it's good to check in every now and then, because we just sort of play and just, I think it'd be good to check in. So combat, social, exploration. So I wanted to talk about those 3 pieces. So the first one that I wanted to hit as a DM and this is something that I kind of struggle with myself. Is I'd like to get the combat a bit snappier, or not snappier, but like snappy. And so I don't really think it's a major problem for characters to be like deliberating and thinking. But I would like for y'all to keep in mind that I want there to be kind of like a fast-paced, sort of high pressure field of combat. I will also commit to doing that since I will be controlling half or more of the combatants. To that end, a couple things I'm entertaining doing is decreasing the hit points of enemies and like increasing the damage they do, and kind of like playing around with some of the lethality aspects so that combats don't slog on for 3 hours, but that they feel deadly and scary. But I'm not sure just yet what I'm going to do with that. But I just wanted to put it out there that, have your turn ready, know what you want to do, especially for those of you who are multi-attacking. Just kind of be like boom, boom, and y'all know how we all play. That's all. So that said, any preferences on combat itself from the party? Any comments about that? Okay.
No, I like that idea. I think absolutely the more we can kind of keep that stress level high and having to make quick decisions, it just makes it more realistic too. And
yeah,
like you said, then it's not like, well, it's round 2 and we've been at this for 2 hours now. Yeah. I think that's a worthy goal.
In live games, I've seen DMs like institute like one of those like timers, little sand timers, to be like, oh, your character was thinking too hard, you lost your turn, type of thing. I don't know if we need to go that far, but you are the DM, and I do trust you to tell us, hey, you're waiting too long. Something's happened. Now it's the next guy's turn. I'm totally cool with your discretion on that,
Yeah, or just push them farther down the initiative order. Well, you don't have something ready after, 2 minutes of trying to figure out what you're going to do. Like, you got to wait now till after this guy goes.
Thought you were going to say push him off the ship.
walk the plank.
You take 10 points of psychic damage. You fall off the ship. And I don't foresee that being a thing. I think honestly, just setting out as expectation of like, hey, let's all kind of commit to like having our shit together, and like, because I like that idea of kind of like just me making some judgment calls, and y'all too. If I'm like fiddling about, feel free to be like, okay, your monster sucks. Time to move on.
Move it along, DM.
Can I ask, do you like is it just this is what I'm doing, or is there role playing in the combat?
Oh,
would you rather take out the role playing in the combat to make it go faster?
That's a great question, and no, I definitely want there to be role playing around the combat. I love it when there's like, yeah, I'm gonna stab this thing in the face or whatever. Like characterize it, especially if it is truly role play. I think that sometimes I overdo that sometimes, so I'm gonna play around with pulling back. But I think that giving context to the fights is good. And I think when the monsters are doing stuff and you're doing stuff, like describing it helps me kind of enjoy the experience. I don't know about the rest, but I think that's good. What I'm more talking about is stuff like, oh dang, geez, there's a lot of stuff happening here. Let me look at my spells.
What should I do? What bonus action do I have left? I get it. So less deliberating, to speed it up, but we can flavor it, and that's okay.
Yes, and I'll also say too that from my perspective, I'm going to make a lot of really quick rulings, and I'm going to rule aggressively in favor of cool shit. So if you're like, hey, I want to jump off the ship and shoot an arrow and have it fly me to the sail, I might just be like, I don't know if that's even possible, but yes, or like roll a luck check or something. Like I want there to be like, I want you all to kind of embrace the gonzo bits. Like, don't feel like you have to be like maximizing your turn and focus. Okay. I mean, obviously I'm trying to kill you, so you probably should, but like, it's cool if you're just like, you know what, I'm gonna jump on this rope and swing across the deck and kick this guy in the face. Like, I will more than likely support that. So
you're saying rule in favor of failing fabulously, it will pay off.
Yes, and I don't want to punish anyone where they give up their entire turn because they want to do something fun, but at the same time, like there's a lot of stuff in DCC that I think really does a good job of making combat feel like exciting, where you just come up with these ideas and like do stuff. I think that I kind of want there to be like comfort around, especially the melee combatants. Like, if you want to do something interesting, just try it and we'll see, and we can, I will be generous. I'd much rather be generous, have the combat be lethal, and keep things rolling,
Got it.
But yeah, definitely roleplay. That is not what I want to step on. It's more unpreparedness, or like oh gosh, what's my bonus? Yeah, exactly. So like, I know I have a cool bonus action. I could do healing word, but like, you know what? That stuff's fine, and I get it. But like, let's kind of like, go. So social encounters. There was a lot of social stuff that I've seen so far where like you're trying to negotiate things or like sneak out of a scenario. I just want to put it out there that there will be social encounters. I like to role play those. And I think it's fun to sort of like let players sort of like describe what they're doing. Typical rule of thumb is your character is not you. So if you're playing an extremely charismatic character, and you feel like you can't like come up with like the charismatic pitch, I'm going to go off your character. You can narrate what's happening, but I still like to hear like playing out the player. You know what I mean? And if you have a really anti-charismatic character, like a ranger dad, then you can kind of play that. Just kidding.
For example.
For example. I haven't actually looked at your charisma score. I'm curious what you did.
It is
cool.
A solid 10.
That's not bad. It's not bad. It's the dad charisma.
Yep.
So then so that's that. I don't have anything else to say about that. I will say that I don't want to let one player spotlight the whole time. So if it's sort of like Ryan is taking his character and he's like the face of the party, he's going to be the face of the party, I realize. Actually, no, we have a bard too. So but if Ryan or David is the face of the party and they're like negotiating, I don't want that to like go on for like 30 minutes while everyone else kind of like just like screwing around in the background. So I'm going to try to be cognizant of taking spotlights back and forth. Just be aware.
Am I the face man?
I don't know. You're a sorcerer, right?
I am sorcerer. I do have high.
Could have some charisma, otherwise we're in
pretty
trouble.
friendly.
He's like an enchanting face, where you just like look at him, you don't understand why he's charismatic, but he is.
You just can't take your eyes off of him.
So the last thing is exploration, and I did want to point this out. This kind of fits into some of the next like player references. This setting screams for exploration. Like it's just sort of like you're in the Astral Sea. You should just like sail off and like find shit. But the campaign is a little bit more on rails. It really kind of it's pretty strongly designed to go like you're fleeing from point A to point B. Okay, now point C is like really critical you go to because otherwise it's a bad thing's gonna happen. Oh no, C fucked up. Now you're fleeing again. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff. And I think, I just want to put it out there that I don't think there'll be as much like meta big picture exploration. You'll find derelict ships and get to explore them, and there'll be dungeon like experiences like that. But I don't think the way it's built is not like, hey, go visit a moon and just like see if there's aliens on there or something. So I wanted to bring that up because that fits into another point of how do y'all feel about that? Do y'all want this to be pretty tight to the book? Are we comfortable going off book and exploring a bit? Is there like a middle ground that you're looking for? I'm comfortable with either option. So
I think it would be really challenging for you as a DM if it were, the exact opposite of being on the rails. Like this is every conceivable thing that's ever been released in D&D, plus anything that you may want to homebrew. So I think a little bit of on the rails probably makes sense. And as a DM, obviously you're very well poised to say, oh, you think you're going to go to Ravenloft and free all the souls trapped there? No, now I'm just going to have like armada of Githyanki suddenly be in your way and you got to turn around and get back to, where you actually should be. So I guess I'm more of a fan of what's best suits the adventure, which better than we do. So I do think a little bit of exploration is always fun. But I think that probably is more setting based, places that we would naturally go to versus, this isn't the Enterprise. We're not just going to go try to like meet new civilization. That's not why we're going to be in this adventure.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. That reminds me too, I didn't explain this piece of the Astral Sea because you mentioned it's not the Enterprise. I was thinking sometimes you may not even have a ship. But if you're in the Astral Sea, you can kind of like fly around with your mind and like, you're probably not going to go to Ravenloft flying through Astral Sea. Okay. Anyone else want to sound off on that? I think, what I'm hearing is if it feels natural to explore, we'll dip in a bit, but let's not derail the campaign.
I guess I sort of can't imagine a scenario where any of us is I can't imagine that we would not take the seeds of the adventure and like kind of go where we need to be. Now, I could see it being kind of like, I don't know how this adventure is written, but I've definitely read some adventures that Wizards has put out where it's kind of assumed the characters are going to do these things within the setting. I could see it being like, maybe we're not following, like we're following the story, we're going along with the story, but we do something unexpected that the narrative couldn't have predicted. I think I'm okay with, if you're okay with like bending the story a little bit to allow us to have some agency in those times where that might happen. It's kind of like and Gabe's running a game right now and Ryan's a part of it. Well, I am sure we have not done what the module wanted, but he's rolled with it and has been able to use the module to like be like, okay, this is how the world would react to you guys making those choices or whatever.
And it's turned into like, a really interesting thing of its own, which is the Spelljammer setting lends itself to that, you know?
Yeah.
So the rails are good, but we'll follow the seeds, but maybe our pods will grow in strange places. And are you cool with that? Because you're going to be the one that's going to have to roll with it, not us, you know? Yeah. And I think we're all mature enough that you can tap us on the shoulder and be like, yo, I can't do that. Right. Just like dial it back, you know?
I mean, my other game that I run is the Ebron game, which is totally just like stuff that falls out of my head before the session. So like I even like allowed the party to like stop at a random city that they found on the map. And I made up an adventure in the middle of the session, like pulled enemies in. It's like my personal preference is like what is fun for y'all is what matters to me. What makes it feel like you have agency matters. The last thing in the world I want to do is like be like rocks fall on your head and now you're in a ship and you're doing things. So like I'd much rather engage that, but I also just wanted to be mindful of like, I think there's the element of like fuck this threat, we're gonna go off to Kryn and like become Dragon Lancers or whatever the heck they do in that setting.
Dragon Lancers.
Not a thing. That might not be a thing. Even in case anyone's watching.
Lancing
technically, if you are wielding a Dragon Lancer, I guess you are a Dragon Lancer. I think that's fair. But to your earlier point, like this isn't your first rodeo as DM. I think we all trust that you're going to be fair. You're going to do what's best for the game, and So cool. I think if you need to steer us, steer us.
Yeah, and I'll say this, like, I feel like the structure of the campaign kind of makes it feel compelling to do the things you're supposed to do, at least the first half, but I do think there's plenty of opportunities for, like, how you resolve a problem be a little bit different. So, anyways, cool. That helps that. Sorry, I know that's a slightly awkward thing to talk about, but I just wanted to hit that. So that brings me a couple other points. One of them is kind of slightly controversial. We're playing this remotely. We're playing online. It's through Discord and all that kind of stuff, OBS streaming. We could go two routes with how we handle combat and world setting. We could do traditional grid-based maps. Where you have a little character and you wander around the map and for combats. Or we could do theater of the mind. Now, I will say this, what I have felt the most comfortable with, and feel free to give feedback. Don't feel awkward about it at all, Robyn, because you're in Ebron with me. What I find that I like is I find it helpful to have battle maps for battle only, and then when you're like wandering around a setting, just to kind of like put a picture or a map, like a big picture map, like a city map or an image, and just sort of like drag images in whenever it feels appropriate to like, hey, you found a GIF, this is what they look like, that kind of thing. So that's kind of my happy zone, but I know that some players really like theater of the mind more, and I could do a further spectrum shift to that. And if y'all are like really fans of theater of the mind, we could just go all theater of the mind. I've never done a full campaign that way, but I think I can handle it. So thoughts?
I could be honest, because a lot of the things in descriptions, I mean, I guess it depends how you're describing the scene. If I can get the picture in my head that you have in your head, I'm fine. But I'm a very I struggle with spatial reasoning and things like that. So if it's only theater of the mind, I really I don't know where things are. I don't know what I'm looking at. So I do find, how you do it for Eberron works well with me. I can do some battles without a battle grid, but to have something to look at has been helpful for me. So I'll speak up on that one because I feel I flounder with solely theater of the mind. But that's
totally fair.
Yeah, I'm kind of similar. I really enjoy both the strategy left brain side of D&D and combat, and I think to really get into that, I like to have the battle map, the grid, so I can make intelligent choices. But I also enjoy the right brained RPing side of it. So when we're out of battle, I absolutely think words or just a general overview map, or even nothing at all, just straight up theater of the mind, that works very well for me there. But I kind of think maps for battles is my preference.
Cool. Alex, Ryan, you have any sound off on that?
I like I kind of like an in-between type thing. I do think in terms of speed and keeping things moving, that theater of the mind kind of keeps things moving, and it does keep things speed, and it does keep things kind of in that spirit of like a quick decision, just on and on, everything's kind of spur of the moment kind of deal. And it's, oh, can we do this? Oh yeah, you can do that. Okay, cool, I'm gonna do, so I do think that I do like the maps. I do like that kind of Warhammer-esque like strategizing side of it. But if there are some quicker combats that you want to have like a roll with it, feel, I'm cool with doing that. Theater of the mind, or I think it might be fun to do it that way. But I'm totally game. However, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, and that was kind of what I was going to suggest. Alex, I want to hear you first, though. But
just real quick, want to welcome Arkenforge to the channel. Thanks for the follow. Yeah, not every day that you join the chat and people are talking about Max. We're just talking about theater of the mind versus like having a battle map and what our preferences are as players and whatnot. And I don't know if I really have a preference anymore, and probably a lot of that has to do with like a lot of times I'm thinking about what's best for the stream and such. And I think visuals are often interesting for people that are like jumping into a stream and they want to see like where are things at and whatnot. If I was solely around a table and this was a game that was just for me and whoever was sitting around that table, I generally like theater of the mind just because I think it's snappier. A lot of times I'm not a spatial awareness person anyway, so like I don't think of things. So I found like doing things theater of the mind are sometimes a struggle for people who are like, I want to know how far away am I from that thing? Am I 25 feet away or am I 30 feet away? And so sometimes having the battle map just eliminates those kind of questions. In I'm not sure really on stream when we're separated and such which way is really faster, but I'm really good with either.
Cool. I was gonna suggest I like Ryan's suggestions. I think we should use maps for like big conflicts where it's like really important to have like spatial sense. And I like building maps. It's and the campaign, I don't know, I haven't looked at like what D&D Beyond produces and like what else is out there, but like they're pretty clear about like what's going on and I can map it. But I think Ryan's point about like if you get in a fist fight in a bar, and I know you would never do that, but if you get in a fist fight in a tavern with characters, I won't be like, let me go pull my map up and start like, here's where the bartender is. Here's where. I do have a lot of tavern maps, to be honest, but I think that's a good balance. And I'm happy to do that too. Like I had when we ran, I ran what was the game? Mouse, not Mouse Guard. Gosh, Mouse Ritter. Yeah, Mouse Ritter. Yeah. I mean, that was sort of like a really interesting experience for me because there aren't even rules for initiative. And it was just like, do stuff. And like, I don't know, it was just nice. And we had a map and I did use a battle map and everything, but it felt nice just kind of not worrying about like exactly how close you are to things and all that kind of stuff. It's just like, trust each other that we'll have be fair about it. And I think,
And I guess that's the part that would help for me. Where I've struggled is where it's like, oh no, you're not close enough to that creature because that person's by the door. Well,
Mhm.
I'm not in. Where's the door? I don't know what you're talking
Mhm.
about. But if it's more of a, oh, okay, yeah, and if it's a roll with a thing, I think I could handle it. But I've been in situations where I just feel lost
Yeah.
because I'm not picking up the picture good enough.
Yeah. What we're gonna do is I'll have a map on my desk that I'm drawing that I don't
Sank
share with
my
you.
battleship.
Yeah, yeah.
What are you talking about? You're 3 squares away. Oh, cool. So Arkenforge does some map building stuff. You should drop your deets in the chat. We all have lots of map building that we do on the channel. Not on the channel, but people in whatever. All the different DMs. There's lots of DMs. We all have our own map making process.
Come to the Discord. Join us.
Cool. Good deal. Yeah. Come to the Discord. Come hang out. Drop your stuff because I'm always interested in checking it out. Okay. So, anyways, that was that, and I think I just wanted to hit that. And the last thing, actually 2 things. So then, next thing. This is a fairly short campaign. Thoughts on guest players? There's a 4-person party. I'm comfortable adding a 5th player, but I also know that short campaign probably, you're adding a mysterious element. It would be vetted if we did it, but I just wanted to get your thoughts on guest players occasionally.
Oh, I think the Love Boat definitely needs guest stars. Absolutely.
So I know that. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think there are pros and cons. I think the more the merrier is a thing, but I also think that when you have a new player then who has a new character that they're learning, that can impact pacing as well. So again, I think I would trust you, and like you said, we'd probably chat about it before anyone jumped on. So I play well with others, but I also know that even watching shows like Critical Role, sometimes it gets to be feels like kind of cumbersome. Of course, they have twice as many players normally than we will, so I'll take that into consideration.
Yeah. So what about? Oh, go ahead, Robyn.
I was just gonna say, I also think it helps to add a guest player after the core players kind of know their characters and are established, because otherwise it can be really hard to figure out who does what, and just who am I, who are you, and then there's this other, I'm a systems person, so it's like, what is the dynamic of the group? Yeah.
Like when a guest player comes and asks who your party leader is, and just then decides who your party leader is for you.
Never happens. That's never happened.
Sometimes
Or
guest players just
NPCs.
ruin everything.
Yeah, they turn on the Alex.
It depends, man. If it's Harvey Villages, then it's always a win.
Oh man.
So here's the thing. So for guest players, one other idea. What I'm hearing is I think maybe not a guest player, but I'm thinking what I'll entertain is guests running NPCs that are important for parts of the campaign, because there are a couple of places where like I'm supposed to run an NPC in combat and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I might bring that on, and I need to look at the campaign more. There's a couple of characters I'm thinking of that very specifically would be kind of fun if we handed it off to like some people that we played with before that we trust, but I don't know. We'll see. Okay, but I hear that, and that's helpful. And then the last thing is we're going to go into the characters. So I wanted to talk about the party. I want to give you all a chance to do some creative stuff since we've been kind of just getting through like the mucking through the weeds, and give you all a chance to reveal your characters, build your characters out, build your party out. And before we do that, several of you have made characters, and I realized I never told you what ability score system that we're going to use. So what did y'all do? I'm just curious.
I use the standard array.
Standard array.
I rolled in D&D Beyond, and it was crazy high, so I'm perfectly fine changing that. I was just like, whoa, I've never had to do this before.
I use... Oh, go ahead, Alex.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I just realized I hadn't made a character until like a few hours before we started. I just used the standard array by default, but honestly, I was already thinking I was going to swap out my stats and redo it, so I'm not really married to anything.
Okay.
I prefer point buy because it helps me like with the RPing side of things. If I ever do min max, it's for the to make the character kind of as genuine as I can. And I will say that the character that I created is probably the worst combat character I've ever created, but yeah, I can easily use a different method. But I've always been a big fan of point buy for that reason, because I usually have an idea going in of who this character is, and rather than this roll now kind of determines who they are.
Yeah, so my personal opinion, I like to roll as a player because I like the chaos and I like coming up with like sometimes really cool characters, sometimes horrible characters. You know, it's interesting to me. Like Bob the Ranger, who was like 10, 10, 10, 11, 10 all the way across. Bob the Commoner. but that said, like my personal opinion as a DM is whatever y'all are cool with, I'm cool with all three of those options. But I just kind of wanted to make sure that no one felt like, you know, you use point buy and, you know, or you only use the array, that's this or that. Like, are we okay with like whatever? Do we trust each other?
I'm totally cool with everybody being happy with how they created their character. Yeah.
Yeah, if we're done with rolling, I would probably roll because I like the chaos also.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought it was fun. And it actually, like, usually when I roll really bad. So I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah, and
it's very rare to roll a super powered character.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, it's not terrible. It's just like I have no negative modifiers, and I've never played a character that has it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think I rolled really well for my character in Paul's game. I think Rogues is like no negatives.
You said that, and it's like, oh, nice, yeah.
Which kind of feels like I've kind of baked it into the personality of the character, you know. So I think it's okay. I'm cool with it as a player because I usually kind of have like a really bad, really good, and like mediocre, and it works out. But so here's my take on it. You can roll, Alex, if you want to re-roll. If your character hits like if the numbers suck, just talk to me. Like, I'd much rather be in fun numbers.
I sort of think that when you're starting at level 5, you can kind of absorb shit rolls a little bit easier anyway because you're going to get a boost. Yeah,
that's a good point. Okay, cool. All right, so let's move into characters. So I know we've only been going for an hour and 15. Normally, I wouldn't take a break at this point. Do y'all feel comfortable pushing, or do you want to? It's been kind of we haven't been having fun. You know what I mean? Like, we're just sort of talking about rules. We could take a break, or we can jump into character introductions.
I don't feel I need a break, but
we can keep going
either way.
Let's go in.
Can I ask a question back about like the rolling and stuff? So are we allowed to use the optional like feat thing instead of the ability score improvement at level 4, or would you rather us? Because I had rolled so high, I'm like, well, maybe I'd just take a feat instead. But if you'd rather me do a ability score improvement instead of that optional rule.
Yeah, good question. Feats are on the table. Classes from anything official is on the table. I'm a fan of all the variant stuff, and all of that stuff is cool. If you have something that's like that you really want to talk about, that's like a Spelljammer homebrew thing or something specifically, I'll entertain it if it's like UA or something. But generally speaking, official stuff, yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And have fun with it, you know, and like, you know, I mean, again, use your discretion, you know, and let me know like if you have any questions about anything that feels weird.
Nice.
All right, cool. So let's jump into characters. So what I would like to do is kind of just do a quick round robin. We got 4 players, and I want to hear, you know, this is your chance to share with your character to everybody. And a couple basic things I want to hear: race, class, background. Really simple. Hopefully that's all settled. I'd like to hear your backstory. We don't have to hear like the 20-page version, but just, you know, kind of like your elevator pitch for your character, and you know, go into them and kind of tell us what you feel like, what everyone else would know about your backstory, essentially. As you're getting into the backstory, a couple things I want to hear, and you don't have to be specific from D&D manual, but I like the idea of like, what are your sort of like ideals? What are your bonds? And then what's your motivation? So what drives you as a character to just like do things in the world? And then I've got a couple of questions I'll ask you, but let's get that first part rolling. So who wants to go first? All right, we're going to go in order. Alex, you're first.
Oh, that's good.
Tell us about your character.
Because I don't have a lot of this. So I'll say this. I have trended in recent years of creating characters and doing what I'd call emergent play, where I will not write a backstory for my character. I'll have a couple of details maybe, but like origin story and stuff like that, I figure those details will come out. I will ad-lib some statement that happens in session 3, and all right, that was a part of something that happened to him. But like the broad strokes about the character I'm going to play is going to be a Thri-kreen ranger. I'm going to play him. He is a bounty hunter. However, he is happily married. He's got kids. He's pretty dorky. Like if you met him on the street, you would not think this guy probably kills for fun. So that is going to be kind of his thing. I would say in general, I made does D&D Beyond ask you for like background anymore, or like those
I don't know
things? Because I feel like I whipped the character together, and I don't remember it asking me like personality traits, bonds, all that stuff.
It doesn't lead you through it, but it's there.
It's there.
Like it's in a section, but yeah.
And to be clear, like I use the same terms they use, but like I never fucking fill that shit out. Like like I mean, like I used to in the beginning, but like I just was like, it's kind of more just like riff. Like your character has ideals. It's like he's a family man. Like does he have like 70 kids because he's a bug? Like
he for sure is like doing everything that.
At home.
Yeah. Big family. I think he'll have a big family. I haven't like figured out the names for everybody, but you know that'll surely come. But I think like he like does what he does for his family to like earn money to like for their betterment. Like it's not very complicated like why he does what he does, but I think on some level he knows that he's got this like Ned Flanders type personality, and he uses that to intentionally to disarm potential marks, and so he will be like really folksy and friendly, and it seems like that's just who he is, but it's really on some level kind of an act. So he's got a little bit of a duplicity going on. I would say I was sort of thinking his sort of thing is, and I don't know, like this might come out in like the questions that you'll ask about our like party bonds and things like that, but like I'm thinking he's extremely loyal, and like once his loyalty is won, like it's like unshakable, unbreakable. Like I think Ryan, you were kind of saying like your character in the Thri-kreen kind of like perspective is if once you're part of a clan, like it's like that's unshakable, that's unbreakable.
I don't know I haven't read in Spelljammer kind of the Thri-kreen thing, but like having been into Dark Sun a lot when I was younger, there was like this whole thing about them imprinting on the first creature they saw, and then their clutch was like their crew, and it's like they would die for this clutch, and if they left their clutch and joined other adventurers and they to the point where they could be their clutch or whatever, it's like they're loyal to the death type of thing.
I didn't even know any of that, but as soon as you said that, I was kind of like, oh, like that's what I was sort of thinking for this character anyway, so maybe it's just I can rely on that bit of lore to kind of explain that part of it. I hadn't really thought of like a great flaw for him yet, but it'll come, I'm sure.
Yeah, I didn't even put that on here because like what I was really more looking for just like kind of like what drives you, and not, I mean, you can have flaws and all that. That'll happen with roleplay. Like I'm not worried about that part. I made the mistake of using the D&D language. I should just been like, what makes your character tick? But cool. So family man, bit of a, I mean, I'm kind of a flaw, maybe is a little deceptive, disarming. My question for you about that is, does the party know this about you? Do they know you kind of are like this bloodthirsty killer secretly or some?
I think I'll wait to answer that until we get further in, but my instinct is yes, that they would know that, but.
Okay. So I had a couple really simple, like baseline questions to tease out some character information. Are you comfortable getting a couple questions, or do you want to let that happen more naturally? Okay. So I have 3 questions. I'm going to ask the same questions to everybody. So spoiler. What was the last time you defied death?
I'm going to say it was going to be some kind of like a solo thing where he, maybe he took on like, he knew that like these 3 dangerous people were going to be in the same location at the same time, and he was like, you know, this is gonna be a big payday. I'm just gonna take all 3 of these jobs, and they're all gonna be like relative proximity, no problem. And maybe the death-defying thing a little bit was just how precisely he had to get to, like, you know, different, maybe a hotel room, and then like a dock where a guy was about to board his Spelljammer or whatever, and so just like the risk of getting caught was elevated because of how kind of off the cuff he had to operate to make that happen.
Cool. And that leads me to the next question, which might be the same question for everyone now that I'm thinking about it. What's the worst decision of your character's life? That may be the same answer, actually. It sounds like.
I think it could, for him, it could be kind of like a chicken or egg kind of situation. He got into bounty hunting and then had a family, or had a family and then became a bounty hunter, which is like, which one is like the bad decision? Like, does he like being a dad more than he likes being a bounty hunter, or vice versa? Because maybe there is somebody out there that he was supposed to kill, but like didn't, and now they know, and they're like acquiring information, and like there's like a vendetta that they're building, and so his family could be at risk because he got sloppy once.
Cool. And that actually, I was expecting a certain answer for the next question, which is, what was the best decision of your character's life? Which I thought was going to be your family, but maybe not, right?
I think it is, but I think just I was just talking about like the previous one is like, yeah, like it is the best decision. Like it's the thing that makes him happy, but we don't know what the future brings, and so it could be bad.
Okay, cool, very good. So, awesome.
Alex, did you share your character's name?
His name is Zephistopholes. Although he'll often go by Zeph or Z for short.
Cool, good deal. All right, that's fun. And yeah, and what I'm trying to kind of like tease out is just a little bit enough about like some dangerous scenarios. I don't know if I'll do anything with it, but just wanted to get that brought out. So appreciate you playing around with that. So let's go to David. David, same thing. Race, class, background, and name. And then just a little bit about your character. What makes them tick, your backstory.
So I will be playing Ichabod. No surname, just Ichabod. Ichabod is a plasmoid. And they are genderless, but he would probably respond to any pronoun at this point. Class is a bard, very much stacked towards speechcraft, and the background in D&D terms is sage. He very much sees himself as a studious type who, and having learned that many worlds don't have intelligent oozes, and oozes are just seen as monsters, really wants to serve as an emissary to his homeworld and to and just to his species in general. So he's kind of a self-appointed emissary for the slime folk. And yeah, the abridged backstory, I guess, would be having, discovered some tomes about, creatures of the multiverse, and just knowing that, the universe is so much bigger than just the home world of his people. Ichabod decides, well, I'm gonna learn as much as I can about this world, about this universe, and then go out and try to, kind of extend an olive branch and just start representing plasmoids, because, they're not found everywhere.
So a follow-up question for you, just so I understand, is your home planet only sentient oozes?
Yeah, I think that's a decision that was reached with another plasmoid who will be in the group.
So
yeah,
have you ever watched Deep Space Nine?
Yeah. I was thinking about that. It's maybe not quite But I am thinking in terms of Star Trek. In most planets, you have like one, maybe two forms of intelligent life. So I do think that this particular plasmoid planet, they were the chief, intelligent species.
Apex species.
Yeah, likely visited by maybe the Xaryxis, some a more peaceful but very well traveled race, and that's where they sort of realized, oh, we're just one small speck in the cosmos, and just got very interested in learning about outside of the home world.
Oh, you're tempting me to put together an ooze dominion.
Well, we did talk about sorry, I'm jumping in, but Amoeba Prime. David throws out all kinds of
Amoeba Prime.
and that was what that he threw out there. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. So yeah, basically a very peaceful, probably dull planet. I mean, maybe that'll put the home world in the crosshairs for this campaign. Not sure, whatever you want to go with, but yeah, just very much eager to kind of go out and experience life after having been sort of learning about it through books and visitors to the planet.
I love it. That's great. Deep Space Nine is like one of my favorite shows of all time, so I'm gonna have to be resisting big time, but
it's definitely one of my favorite Star Treks. Yeah. DS9.
Yeah. Big time.
As far as let's see, ideals. Really, the ideal of I do think exploration and experiencing is ideally more of an idealistic than a pragmatic individual, and Bonds at this point would be I think I wouldn't go so far as to say that Ichabod is only a pacifist, but I do think peace kind of is what Ichabod kind of aims for, and the bonds would be very familial, family or extended family or found family, where yes, I feel like I'm part of something greater than just yet another plasmoid living on this rock in wild space.
Cool, that's excellent. So kind of like to recap that, like your motivations, you really want to like meet people and do good out in the world.
Yeah.
Cool. Very good. And so I'll shift it around a little bit and ask a slightly different question as the opening is recall a memorable, non-lethal, non-death defying experience, something that's really meaningful to your character.
I think one of the most meaningful would be probably the first time, I would say maybe this happened within Ichabod's lifetime, was the visit from the Githzerai, and just kind of realizing, wow, there's something else out there. I think that was a very pivotal moment for Ichabod and some other family members as well, but was still probably more tentative and wanted to learn as much as he could before leaving the home world. But yeah, I think that kind of set his life's trajectory. Is wow, there's other things out there besides just my world, and I want to go out there and I want to show them that there's more than just jellies and gelatinous cubes that just mindlessly kill.
Cool, excellent. And then same question I asked Alex, the best and worst decisions of your character's life.
I think the worst decision might have been to linger and try to learn from books as long as he did. Part of that just being maybe some of the tomes are outdated. Maybe there's a slant to them given who the author is. So while he feels as though he is knowledgeable, he might not be he might not know what he thinks he knows, or might not know as much as he thinks he knows. What was the other side of the question?
Your best decision. So
I think the best decision probably was to finally close the book and like take the big step to leave the home world and say, okay, I may not know everything, but I'll learn along the way.
Cool, very good. So Robyn, pivot to you. Same types of opening questions: race, class, background, name, backstory.
All right. I am playing Placebo, who is Ichabod's sister, and it's kind of fun because those of you maybe who know us, David and I are sisters and brother and sister siblings in real life. So we thought it would be fun to play sibling characters, and so I am the slightly older, slightly smaller. We called it freak twin when we were describing how these oozes reproduce. So instead of just one, child being born, there was a freak twin experience, and I'm the little twin, but I'm older. So I am a monk, and the Placebo name kind of fits the personality as well. She is someone who wants to help, and maybe does it in a very it's only helping because you think it's helping kind of way, but she wants to help. I picked the background. It's one of the newer ones, the Wild Spacer background, because Placebo left the home planet earlier than her brother and joined a fishing ship. And basically her job was to clean it up because, just kind of suck up everything and clean up the ship when there's mess. And so she's traveled a bit, but not in the most, I don't know, like luxurious accommodations, has a chance to see quite a bit. But she really does like to, blend in with the people that she's with. And as such, she wears a little smiley face mask to try to mimic a face so it's not so disarming to the people around her. And she's a bubblegum pink color because, again, gender seems very important to the people around her. So this is very clear. She is female, bubblegum. Come on, guys, what's not to like, right? So that's a little bit about her background. And she has sent letters back to her brother and, finally now is reconnecting with him again. I think I hit on some of what you...
No, that's perfect.
Yeah, helping people, her bond, very strong bond to her brother. She's very protective, wants to take care of him, especially since he's kind of naive and new to this big bad world. That's her strongest bond, but generally likes to be a helper.
Okay, great. And then I'll ask a couple questions. So how does your character find meaning in the universe? You kind of answered that, but if you want to expand, what's her bigger meaning for her?
Oh, man.
Or is there
I
a
don't
bigger
know
meaning?
if she thinks that big. I really don't think she thinks that big. I think it's just like right now in the moment, what does someone need and how can I best give that to that person? So,
Okay.
yeah.
And then your best and worst decisions, and they can be small. I mean, I guess they're their best and worst, they're big decisions, but your best and worst decisions.
Yeah, well, the best decision was finally being able to travel with Ichabod again, because that is like, oh man, reunited. So that's feeling really good. Worst decision, I imagine, because a lot of times when it's like you want to be a helper, kind of prone to burnout, over sacrificing. Sometimes you think you're helping and you're not. So I think her worst decision would be a time where she was telling somebody something that she thought would help them, but actually got them into quite a bit of trouble. I'm not exactly sure what that would look like. If it's like someone from the fishing ship, yeah, sure, you totally could start, your own crew and go out there and then find pieces of that ship, and they'd been attacked. Something along that line where it's like, ooh, maybe just telling people what they want to hear isn't always helping. So
Cool. I have to pause for a second and just say something about the three characters that we've got so far that I think there's a little bit of like real life bleeding into each one of them. So like we have the dad, bounty hunter, lives 2 lives. We have the sage author that's like wanting to like expand his horizons, and then we have the helper Placebo that's like maybe doubting like some of the effects. Like there's a little like
oh yeah, that was for me. It was like I'm gonna play the most, like the person I wish I could be on a good day type of thing in a way. But yeah. But I kind of described her as a Japanese anime big sister girl, like over the top. Oh, let me get that for you. Oh, I'm so sorry for existing. Let me go stand over here, kind of personality.
That's exactly right.
I
can't wait. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask if I could jump in just to play facilitator with the chat here for just a second.
Oh, sure.
Because we've got some questions coming in. And also, there were so many cheers and gifted subs that were wooing and doing all that. Just a blanket thank you to everyone that has gotten us. We're a level 5 hype train right now, so thanks for getting us there.
Wow.
Oh.
But also just to reiterate,
I was so enthralled in our characters, I didn't even notice.
There were some questions I think about, because I don't have it like listed very well in the overlay here for session 0, but questions about like class, race, character name probably. So Robyn, you said Plasmoid Monk, is that correct?
Yeah, Way of Mercy monk, yes.
And David, you're a Plasmoid.
Yes, I'm a Plasmoid bard. College of Eloquence. Again, not musical. Fine motor skills, strings, not great. Not a mouth to speak of, so wind instruments not great. So I got a drum, got a little hand drum, but yeah, mostly speechcraft.
And my character was going to be a Thrycreen Ranger. We're all starting at level 5 for this one.
That's right. Yep. Well, that brings us to our last character to be introduced. So Ryan, you want to tell us about how your character and how your personal life is bleeding into this character? I can't wait.
Yeah. So my character is a Thrycreen sorcerer. His name is Koraz, and he sometimes likes to go by the Hive, or he says he speaks for the Hive. He's got kind of a twisted mind where some sort of otherworldly creature has granted him some magic powers, but has also made him sort of crazy. And what he's really driven by is, this search for this creature, this thing that speaks to him, that he speaks for, that he believes he's part of, that it's kind of why he's left his home world, which I think I've decided is Athos, the Dark Sun planet, where he was like part of a nomadic hunter tribe in the deserts. But yeah, he kind of decided that he was going to go off and find this hive that he is a part of at any expense and any distance, and has thusly found himself adrift in the Astral Seas, which I actually took that the backstory or background of the Astral Drifter from the Spelljammer for him. Kind of, he's been out there for, I think of the song, the Existential Blues, and I've been out here a long time myself, boy, where he's just been out in the Astral Seas searching for this god or this creature. And I like to think that, it's been a long time since he's kind of traveled with people or anybody, and maybe, upon, exiting being so adrift in the Astral Sea and kind of entering into some sort of city or world, he ended up with these people, this group of people, and it's kind of the group he's been with the longest, and he's sort of imprinted on them with that kind of Thrycreen deal, that loyalty where your clutch is the most kind of important thing outside your main purpose. So he's kind of I like to think that maybe this crew could be that for him, and that's what one of his kind of motivating things. And I know in the Astral Drifter background it talks about meeting a deity or something about that being adrift, and I was thinking maybe as a part of his backstory it could it could be that this deity gave him a little bit of a hint of where he would find the hive, and it would be like after he found his clutch or something like that,
Cool. Have you rolled for the 20d6 years older than you actually are?
I didn't roll for that yet, but I did roll for the god thing, and I got Istis, the god of fate and destiny.
Love it. That's perfect.
Perfect for what you said.
Well, I kind of picked it based on that, some of the stuff.
Oh, yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm kind of basing the character a little bit on my boy Zorak from Space Ghost, and on Cybok Spock's brother from Star Trek, who's kind of out in space searching for God at all costs. So
Cool. That's perfect. And my question for you, the same two questions sort of is, first one is, what's some object you carry with you that you find very precious, that you just, doesn't have to be a weapon or a magic item or anything, just something you want to carry around that's meaningful to you? It's your vest.
Yeah, I think he's a sorcerer, so he's got like a magical focus. So I want to say like I chose like this orb, and I want to say that this is like it's like his like thing, it's where he draws, it's how he communes with the hive, It's like his Linus blanket,
Got it. So you're like, it's almost like you're staring into it and thinking about things and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I would say maybe even he like kind of moves it around in his like claws or his multi hands, like it fidgets with it or something, sort of like a fidget spinner or something. Maybe it's very annoying. I want to say that Koraz is sort of annoying. It said that Thri-kreen could be medium or small, and I kind of thought it would be really funny if he was small or a sized creature.
Okay.
So I decided I'd make him small and kind of annoying.
So that actually brings up a good point. I don't think we heard that from Alex. Is your Thri-kreen small or medium?
Medium.
In your mind, medium. So we got a medium Thri-kreen, a medium Plasmoid, a small Plasmoid, I'm interpreting, and a small Thri-kreen. This is
on Athos, the Thri-kreen are supposed to be really big, but like since it's not like really a part of the D&D world right now, I'm gonna say like Athos is just smaller than the rest of it.
I mean, that makes sense.
We're essentially magical space pirates in the Brady Bunch now. Like that's
right.
How we've just crashed into a whole different sitcom.
Perfect. And then the best and worst decision of your character's long life. I think we have to roll. You know what? Before we do that, can we do the 20d6? Can you pull that up like an online? I want to roll this now. I want to see how old you are.
Let me see.
I'm hoping for 180 years.
Let me see. I've got let's see here.
An online roller.
Yeah.
I'll trust whatever number you put out.
Can you?
And how many was it? 20d6? You said
it was 20d6. I'll double check, but I'm pretty sure.
Oh, I
get 61.
Okay.
61.
I'm sorry. I was trying to get to 180 with 20d6, but then I realized you probably were in age when you were in.
I'm at 100.
So.
No, I just did the math wrong. I was thinking 30d6 or 20d. No, yeah, 36. So you're 61 years older than you appear to be.
Yeah.
So you're probably like 90, 100, something like that.
I'm not. I gotta look and see what the. I know that it used to be that like Thri-kreen only lived like 20 or 30 years or something like that.
That might be true. You're right.
But I don't know what it is now. But I would be considered like Koraz the ever living at this point.
Funny.
I love it. They don't actually put it on here. I'm surprised. I thought age was like a thing they used to put. I guess not.
I think
when I speak into your mind, this is the voice that you will hear. You will never hear me speak in the Thri-kreen click. You will only hear the hive in your mind. Sorry about that.
No, that's perfect.
I was just gonna say that when I was kind of scanning through the new races and in the new books, it sounded like they gave just this very blanket answer that most humanoids and I guess by extension PC races like live to be about 100 years old, except for elves and dwarves. So they're almost seemed like they were making a blanket statement that if you don't know, you probably will die at around 100. But of course, we can take that with a grain of salt.
For sure. I'll let you decide all that, of course. And then best and worst decision of your character's life. You're at least 60 plus years.
Yeah, I would say probably, what Koraz would consider his best decision recently would probably be finding this group, right? Probably whatever hint the Istis gave him in the Astral Sea was like, once you find your clutch, you'll find the hive. And so he believes that joining this group that he's clutch bonded on is the best decision that he's made. And then probably the worst decision that he's made is he has made some, being adrift for so long and being in search of this hive, he's made some enemies. In particular, he has sort of drawn the anger of a plasmoid known as the Phlogiston Spectre. And this Phlogiston Spectre is always standing in the way of Koraz getting to the hive. Every time he thinks he's going to be close, and he knows that he's close because the Phlogiston Spectre arrives. And there's some sort of combat battle, and then this Phlogiston Spectre disappears into wild space, and the chances of finding the hive are gone. And it's sort of getting mixed up with this Phlogiston Spectre to begin with is certainly the worst decision he's ever made.
Is the Phlogiston Spectre real?
If the hive is real, then the Phlogiston Spectre is real. But I want to say that he believes they are both real, but probably everybody else thinks both do not exist.
Okay, so that's an important note for myself. Great. Cool. All right, so we are nearing the end of the allotted time, but there's a couple things I wanted to do. I did want to give a chance for the party to do some how did you get to know each other type stuff, but I don't want to drag it out too far because I honestly feel like we're kind of getting a nice group understanding here. So I'm just gonna ask some really blanket questions. So, what is your crew's purpose? What are you all doing? Are you bounty hunters? Are you shippers? Are you sailors for hire? What's y'all's why are you together? What do you think?
It seems like maybe the easiest answer, which might not be the best answer, is that we all kind of have a need to travel, and there's a certain protection in groups, and maybe for someone like Koraz, it's to keep his sanity a little bit, get a little bit of a grip, because now he's got some other people or others to help watch his back from the Phlogiston Spectre. I definitely think from Ichabod's perspective, he really wouldn't know where to go. He wouldn't really necessarily have a destination on his own, because again, the more places we go, the more people I can meet, the more I can kind of best represent my race. And of course, he's going to want to attach himself, figuratively speaking, to Placebo, his sister, who is a little bit more worldly, or quite a bit more worldly than he is. How much we are aware of the bounty hunter / assassin in our midst, that I think that's something that maybe we'll need to hash out a little bit.
Well, I was just thinking with the Phlogiston Spectre thing, maybe Koraz has hired me to be protection or something, and then that frees you guys up to find something non-bounty hunter related to do, or to coalesce the group that I'm the hired hand that's kind of taken along.
Yeah, there's nothing better than a steady gig when you're a bounty hunter. I mean, that definitely would, I think, be lucrative to a family man. Hey,
yeah,
I'm not.
Or you're an ooze hunter, right? Maybe you're on the hunt. Maybe the Phlogiston Spectre is a big payday, and me and you have kind of aligned somehow because we're both enemies of the Phlogiston Spectre. I don't know.
I think that could tie in even with the plasmoids. I especially, not that Placebo is stupid, but I think she's so eager to please that it's well, there's a bad ooze out there. I think we should find this bad ooze because my brother wants to represent the good oozes, and I know a thing or two about oozes, and I can help you track this bad ooze down.
Right.
So I think that could bring us all together.
And of course, Ichabod could probably convert him into becoming a much more peaceful and upright citizen of the slime folk. So yeah, I think it would be pretty hilarious if the four of us are off to find the Phlogiston Spectre, who may or may not exist.
Yeah, like I think definitely it would be funny, like it would be funny if Placebo, right? She's kind of buying the story hook, line, and sinker, but it would be really great if what is it,
Zephistopholes?
Zephistopholes is always like hitting some of the characters aside, like this Phlogiston Spectre doesn't even exist, like,
But it pays.
But it pays the bill.
I'm in between jobs right now, and the last one was real stressful. So
You got kids to feed. Like how
Yeah.
many? Like dozen. I mean, that's a lot of kids.
I killed
Yeah, it
3
could be
guys
like-
in 5 minutes. I'm taking a break for a bit.
It's pretty funny too, because it's because this little tiny bug, and then this big old bug standing like guard around it.
Well, and if Koraz has been wandering for so long, I mean, he probably has amassed, some treasure, unless he's, just a penniless drifter. But he may have some, some cash stashed, and of course he's going to use it to try to get to the hive. He doesn't care how much he spends.
Yeah, it, at all costs, any distance,
Okay. I feel like it's not gonna be a problem for y'all to build your characters out. So I'm gonna ask I think I'm gonna move into the world building bit, but I'm hearing a pretty strong story developing. I was gonna ask what brought y'all together and all that kind of stuff, but it sounds like we got a plan. So I think we're good.
Now, would we already be on a ship? Would we be a crew that is off searching for this, or Spectre? Would it be we've met up in this starting city or whatever somehow, and we're thinking about it, and something goes down or something like that?
I think so. My take would be that y'all tell me how you want to go with this, but you have to eat, right? And you have to keep up this payment that you have for your bodyguard / assassin you've hired. And so maybe you take odd jobs. Maybe y'all are trying to work your way across the universe and bumming around. I would say that you don't have a Spelljammer ship, and maybe you take on work as a sailor on a crew as a crew, or you bum rides and that kind of thing. But that's it.
I thought that would be kind of cool, do a Star Trek Lower Decks thing. We all kind of met as the mop up Lower Decks crew on some ship somewhere,
Okay, sure, yeah. So how long do you think you've been together then?
Guess long enough that we're friends, and that they're willing to buy this ridiculous story or something.
Should we just say half a year? I mean, I would think half a year you'd get to know people pretty well, but you wouldn't know everything about them. And I think if we don't really have a set destination in mind, it would make sense just to be deckhands on a ship, because you hear things in ports. You hear things, if passengers are taken on the ship. So I think, again, it's a little aimless, but not really, because we're just trying to kind of pick up a trail at this point.
He sees him. The guy disappears so quickly. And next time, I will be looking. Next time, I will see it too.
I want to play with that a lot. Okay, yeah, I think that's cool. So, some context, like I mentioned before, you're going to be on a home planet that's going to be threatened by a cosmic event. That's session 1. Just letting y'all know, you're going to open with bad shit's happening, and you're going to have to deal with the problem. And that's going to be the driver for what you're doing. So you can that's because you think the Phlogiston Spectre is associated with this. Very easily you could go that route. You also could go the route of the planet itself is meaningful to you, so you want to keep it alive. What do y'all think? Do you feel like you'd have a... Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Does everybody know? Well, I guess there's the Plasmoid planet. I'm saying my character's from Athos. Have you fleshed out where you think your character's from?
Yeah, we
Alex?
did. Yeah, we did a little world building to kind of at least name the place. I don't have that. I actually took some notes in a different file. I think it's it's Mukopoeia, or maybe just easily said Macopia.
Macopia.
Yeah, Macopia, which I think in some ways would make sense if we ended up back there, because maybe that's where we think a plasmoid would go, to a planet primarily comprised of plasmoids. Or I definitely think if we're going to put a planet in jeopardy, putting like half the party's homeworld in jeopardy is going to keep us on the rails from a motivation.
Okay.
But I wouldn't have any problems if we're stopping by either of your homeworlds.
That was sort of my thought, was if that would be the most logical planet to put in sort of danger to make it make sense. And since it's kind of tied in with this Floxton Spectre thing too.
Yeah. I think that's a fun jumping off point, because if it's just Faerun, like, or Toril, like, I mean, do we really care? It's like, yeah, it's sad, but let's just get out of Dodge and keep looking for our, the bounty.
How do you feel about that, Alex? Is that lining up with your character? You think you'd hang out and help? You're getting paid, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the very least, like, the pay thing is going to be a motivator for him, but also probably at this point, if we've been hanging out for 6 months or so,
right.
And he's become friends with Ichabod and Robyn, what was the name of your character?
Placebo. It's Placebo.
Placebo.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I know I don't really stand out very much. It's okay. You will get it eventually.
So I think that's a good, sensible option for the story.
And would that work for you as a DM? Has the like, have they really spelled out a whole lot in the like, module or whatever that you'd have to adjust to make that work? Or
we'll just reskin everyone to be oozes. It'll be like a whole ooze city. No, it's actually they explicitly are just like, wherever starting point you want to put it. It just needs to be a dock where there's like sailors and people of some kind, ideally buildings, but I think that we can make sense out of it as the ooze world. Like, it's like a hub for like interfacing with them.
I would think so. There would be at least a port city, because we each had experiences of meeting up and then leaving on ships that weren't ooze ships. So
right, yeah, I think there'd be at least one city that is kind of a spaceport at this point in their history, and there'd be some non-plasmoids hanging out there, whether just passing through or decide to live there, because it is a relatively peaceful planet, which makes it all the sadder that it's in someone's crosshairs.
That's right.
What did it ever do to you?
We're just peaceful slime folk.
Yeah, and then the question for the party: would you all be sad if I destroyed Faerun in this game?
Nah.
No.
Cool. So I don't think I'm gonna blow it up for like extra stakes. Be like, the sword coast.
Alteron treatment, huh?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you're not far off from what's gonna happen. Okay, cool. That's great. So, you know what? I feel pretty settled on the tone and the vibe. I think the characters got something going on here. I'll probably have a few more questions for y'all before I describe the slime planet. I mean, the ooze planet, and like what that's like. But I think we're good. I don't know that there's much more that I wanted to hit. Appreciate y'all. Like, I did, like, basically half of my prompts I just like threw away because y'all just kind of like riffed, so it was cool. But I think it's great. I'm happy about it. I think it's a really nice party setup, and I feel good with the session 0. So before we wrap, is there anything else that y'all wanted to ask or comment on or riff about?
How this ridiculous Floxton Spectre thing became the center of the story, I don't know. It's awesome.
It would also be a great campaign name. I was almost like the Floxton Spectre.
I love the fact that we don't know if this creature is actual or mythical, or like just a figment. I think that's just fits in very well with Spelljammer. Just like what's real?
I'm convinced that it's real, but I'm going to leave it up to the DM as to whether it is or isn't.
There's some mechanics in the new setting that let me play with that some. Because as you can imagine with the Astral Plane, there's a lot of unusual things that could be going on. So I'm just gonna play with it because it might come up. That could be fun. Could be a little like side detour. It wouldn't complicate. Probably like line it up with what's happening.
Well, and as you're talking about it, at first I heard Phlox Inspector, and I'm like, well, what's a Phlox Inspector? And then it's like, oh, Phlox Inspector, which sounds scarier. But I think people thinks it's a Phlox Inspector, and that makes it even more funny to me. So
yeah, maybe it's a sensitive subject. You don't want to ask for clarity. Just kind of go along.
I don't want to look stupid, and so I will just keep looking and see what this Phlox is.
Well, and probably every time it comes, Koraz probably gets very, animated. Something is happening, and he disappears, and he's bothering me.
More bad Phlox. I don't know. Every time.
That's okay, buddy. We'll get him next time.
We better get him.
Always one step ahead of us. I guess we just better go to the next planet.
Shucks.
He's disappearing again.
Better write a letter home. You're gonna be busy again.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, that's hilarious. Okay, great. I'm extremely pleased with that as a context. So, very good. So Monday we pick up 7 Central. If anyone is out there hanging around and curious to see how this is going to go, please give us a follow and check us out on Monday, 7 Central on the channel. If you want to be a part of the community, I just put the Discord in the chat. Hop in the Discord, and there are I don't know how many people you got in there now, but we have tons of people. It's very active. There's lots of interactions, and this is a fun campaign that's going to be, our group for 12 or more sessions. But we run a lot of campaigns. One of the things that we do in the channel that is really special is that Alex runs a community campaign. It's actually a community of DMs that run this massive community campaign that's set in, I guess technically set in Greyhawk, but it's after the Temple of Elements Evil has been resolved, and resolved. And so there's a lot of fallout, and the players get to explore different segments of that region. And it's hard to explain how it works. I don't know why it works, but it does work so well that it's almost like you drop in, drop out, and we track your leveling, we track your items, and you just have a character, and you keep them around until they get killed, and it's fun. So, Alex, you want to say anything more constructive about the community campaign?
It's just I think it's a good way to get to know, if you saw someone on stream or a couple of people, you're like, they'd be kind of fun to play with. It's sort of your way to be able to do that and become one of the people playing. A lot of people, I think, have the experience of they watched the stream, and then we said something about the community campaign. They said, you know what? Challenge accepted. I'm going to do that. They're going to be sorry. And then they sign up, and then the next day they're playing. They were watching a stream one day, they were playing a game on the next, and then that's it. That's all you have to do.
Yeah.
You're a part of everything, and you're playing, and then you've got your session where that crazy thing happened, and everyone talks about it 2 years later. So yeah, it's just a lot of fun, and it's very I would say it's more flexible now than it ever has been, because we do have all these DMs running these games that once you get involved in it, there's even a channel devoted to requesting a session. So you as a player are I want to go and do, I don't know, right now they're trying to get me to write the session about how do we find Casey's donkey.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah.
So,
Donkey.
that could happen. And so that's the community campaign. It's this very unique thing that we do.
Yeah, no joke. My first game on the channel was a community campaign game. I don't know what, and my favorite memory of ever playing D&D was a community campaign session that just was a lot of fun. And it was a player getting killed. It wasn't my character, but it was so it was just so funny. It was so brutal. Oh gosh, I could. And the person who
All
played
my
the character
favorite
added to
memories
it.
are when my friends get killed in D&D too.
So yeah, I told the story to people, and everyone's like, "Your DM is mean." I'm like, it's like you don't understand. It went really well. Anyways, so yeah, so hang out, come and play with us in the community campaign. This is Spelljammer. We'll be back on Monday, and I'm gonna try to follow pretty closely what's going on. So if you're curious about what the campaign's like, if you're running it yourself, or you just want to see how on earth the Flux Inspector gets involved in the grand conspiracy, check in on Monday, and it'll be every 2 weeks from there. So that's all I got. Alex, anything else you want to say?
I think we'll throw a raid over to another channel, but yeah, if you want to see how the community campaign works, tomorrow night I'm running. We're returning to the Temple of Elemental Evil, so it might be a good session to watch just to see how it works. So that'll be tomorrow night at 7. But
Great. All right, that is all. Bye bye, everyone.
good night.